Welcome to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, alongside me, Steve Wyss and James Eastham. Back to form last week from the boys, but the 4-unit play, unfortunately, after huge build-up on Sunday and winners galore on Sunday building up to the game, didn't quite cash. Steve, our good friend, never to be spoken again after this show, Eddie Wahi, I don't know how many chances he missed, but with that bet should have cashed for us.
Well, good day to you, gentlemen. And, after that match on Sunday evening, I just wanted to quit the betting game. I really did. Because I said in our show last year, I very rarely deserve to lose a bet. And that was an absolute prime example of it. I don't mind losing fair and square, but Marseille should have been 4 or 5-0 up at half-time, and that is no exaggeration. I was a backer of Elie Wahi anytime scorer at a big price. I was on Marseille goal totals over 2.5 and 3.5. And I knew at half time. I said I'd actually given up Wahi scoring at half time. I actually tweeted. I think I messaged you, take him off the field. It's not going to happen today. He's one of them players. If he misses an early chance, he's done for the day. He's a confidence player, but if he starts well, either scores or gets one away on target, he can have a lethal match. So, yeah, look, what can you do? He's one of those players. This week, hopefully, he comes good.
Indeed. We'll get to that in just a second. James, I was messaging you throughout Sunday because your parlay lean cashed and then your hot dog with a goal scorer cashed. It was all going to plan until we got to that Marseille game.
Yeah, we had a good day, didn't we, last Sunday with Ludovic Blas scoring for Rennes in their game. That was our hot dog pick last week at plus 255. The thing about the Marseille game not cashing, I actually don't mind when a game goes like that and we lose, because we were right, really, weren't we, Steve? If you look at it that way, we thought Marseille were going to win. We were on them on the Asian handicap and they absolutely battered Reims in terms of general play. So it's frustrating on the one hand it didn't cash, but I find it a lot worse when you've kind of called a game completely wrong. If Marseille had been outplayed, then I'd be thinking, oh, blimey, what were we expecting here and why? But a game like that, honestly, I'm sort of encouraged really that we called how the game was going to go correctly. We just couldn't really legislate for those missed chances, and I think that's why we're both still quite hot on Marseille, aren't we? We'll see later in the show about that.
Well, indeed we are. Well, we're going to kick off with it because we have to, don't we, here? The boys haven't been put off, so much so that Steve's even got his Marseille top on. What vintage is the Marseille top, Steve?
I think it's a 2012 kit.
2012.
And I wore it on the Friday's live show, and we had a few winners on that show. So I thought, let's bring some positive energy.
hang on, we're not going down. We're not going down lucky pants territory, are we here?
Well, we were talking about betting superstitions actually on the live show on Monday this week. Any betting superstitions? I mean, that's everyone has their own quirks, don't they? It's not quite in that territory, but I thought let's bring a very nice looking kit to the show, and hopefully it can bring a bit of turn of fortune.
Yeah, well, look, we're sticking with Marseille, more ways than one. Obviously, Steve's got the jersey on for the show today. And we're going to go for you again for Marseille and their trip to Toulouse, but we're splitting our stakes. Obviously, if you're new to the show, the boys have a 2-unit player piece every single week. It's a banker bet, it's a lock, it's a shoe-in, whatever you want to call it. It's their best bet, so we're allowing 2 units from our handicappers, and they've both gone the same game again, but it's slightly different in terms of the markets that they're going for. So they both can still win, which is good. So it's away at Toulouse, or Marseille are away at Toulouse. Toulouse are plus 280. Marseille are minus money favourites at 107. The draw is plus 265. This is main game in France on Saturday. Is it 3 p.m. Eastern? Now, James, you're going to go first with your play here. Now, for those looking at sort of past form or last season form, they might be slightly concerned with your play, but obviously things have changed quite a lot with Marseille over the summer in terms of the coach and indeed the players that have come in. So talk us through your bet here.
Yeah, so I'm going on Marseille to win the game here, Dan. That's my 2-unit pick. Marseille at minus 107 to win the match. For anybody that's not watched them so far this season, they've played 2 games. They won 5-1 away at Brest on the opening weekend. They were good value for that win. It was an excellent performance. And then the bet that we didn't win on last weekend was when they drew 2-2 at home to Reims. But as we've alluded to, they were by far the better team in that game, and they created a stack of chances. So I think Marseille are really good value to win here. Minus 107, it's 51, 52% chance of winning the game. I honestly think, given how they've played so far, given they've got good team news going into the game this weekend, they've got a better chance of winning the game than those odds would suggest. I think away from home will probably suit them. We saw when they won 5-1 away at Brest, where they maybe got a bit more room than they're going to get at home. They can be very quick and dangerous on the break. So I really fancy them to make up for those drop points last weekend. And I think those drop points might be a factor here, Dan. I think they'll be fuming, actually, and they'll be very annoyed with themselves that they didn't win a game, having dominated and created so many chances. So they'll want to put that right here. They've got good team news, and I think they'll get the job done. And very quickly on Toulouse, the opponents, they've been pretty poor for me so far. They've played 2 games. They've drawn them both. Didn't play particularly well in either match. They got a draw away at Nice last weekend. They drew at 0-0 at home to Nantes. On the first weekend, both of those teams they faced are weaker teams than the Marseille side they're going to face this weekend. And at the beginning of the week, they've lost their best defender. Logan Costa, who's a terrific young centre-back, has moved to Villarreal. I know we're going to come on to Villarreal later on in the show. So they go into this game without him. He was already missing last weekend, I think. But the new look back three, we think they'll use a back three here. They do swap between a back three and a back four. It will take some time, I think, at Toulouse to settle down because they've had changes in that defence even before Logan Costa left. So there's a bit of uncertainty about Toulouse. This is the first big attack they'll have faced this season in Marseille. And I think the number of chances they created last weekend, Marseille, was very encouraging. I think they'll convert enough of them this weekend to get the win. And just very quickly, we've talked about Eli Vahi, the man who missed the chances last weekend. I don't know if Steve wants to mention him as well, but he's plus 230 to score any time this weekend. Now, given he was getting in the positions to score, I don't know. I'm quite tempted by that. But my main pick is just on Marseille. That's to win the game at minus 107.
Steve, you're also playing in the same game with your 2-unit play, but it's not on the money line. You have gone for the goals market here. What's the play?
Over 2.5 goals at minus 124. And do you know what? I'm kind of going to apologise here for the next few weeks because I think I've got a strategy, actually, for the next few shows. My 2-unit and 1-unit plays are going to be quite boring, actually. I need the units. You know, I've had a poor start on this season's show, so I need the units, and the best way to do that is sometimes to simplify it. So there's not going to be that many snazzy picks for me for the 2-unit and 1-unit play. You know, call me Mr. Boring, Mr. Unoriginal, Mr. Lame, whatever, Mr. Vain. It was a song, wasn't it? It's quite a good one. But you know, I'm just trying to break things down here, and I was speaking to the boss, Nigel Seeley, about Marseille, of all things, and he was saying that he thinks Marseille are going to be a massive over team this year, having watched so much of De Zerbi at Brighton. And if Nigel Seeley's saying that, then I think that's saying something, isn't it? And I just looked at it last week, and I was thinking I should have been on the goals here because De Zerbi football is a bit manic, isn't it? You're just never sure they're going to keep a clean sheet under him. And I think this is going to be a crazy game. It usually is, by the way, here at the stadium in Toulouse. Marseille have a crazily good head-to-head record against Toulouse. The last time Toulouse beat them was in 2016 in a competition that doesn't even exist anymore, the Coupe de la Ligue. You have to go all the way back to 2007, the last time they had a home league win against Marseille. And the stadium's usually rocking for this match, but there's tons of Marseille fans that come to this fixture. So Marseille are really well supported. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. It's going to promote good football. 5 of the last 6 head-to-heads have been over 2.5 goals at this venue. Marseille have had 3-2 wins twice and a 5-2 win in recent times. And I think I could see something similar. I think it could go way over. I think Marseille are capable of covering the goal line on their own. Toulouse should be able to contribute in some form. I agree with James. They haven't looked that great this season. You look at their defence, they've got Charlie Cresswell in defence, you know, a Leeds United player. The goalkeeper saved them a lot last season, Restes. Can the same happen again this year? I'm not sure. Offensively, they have averaged a decent amount of shots this year, only scored 1 goal, but I think there will be goals in Toulouse. And so this is why I prefer the over 2.5 goals, minus 124. I say pretty boring pick really, but for a De Zerbi team to be this sort of price, I think Marseille away games could be more bonkers than the home matches actually. I think they might be more open. So, I mean, I think we're well covered here. I'd be surprised if Marseille don't win the game. I think the only danger scoreline is probably 1-1. This Marseille, I think, come back on track here. Based on what we've seen in the first 2 games, they're very, very capable of racking up a good number.
So, 2-unit play for James, Marseille to win, minus 107. 2-unit play for Steve, over 2.5 goals at minus 124. Let's round up some French leans for you because the boys were in good form last week. We've got 3 games to look at. Steve, you've got a couple. Saint Etienne against Brest here. Bit of a surprise for me what you're going for here because Saint Etienne yet to pick up a point, yet to score.
My lean's actually Saint Etienne straight on the money line. A big price at +335. Based on, I just don't like what I've seen from Brest this season. They've looked really poor in the first 2 matches, massively outplayed by Marseille and Lens. This is a much easier game, but there's a lot of pressure on this now. Suddenly everyone's thinking they need a result here. But when this goes live, Brest will know their Champions League opponents, I do believe. And that's something exciting to look forward to, but that's going to bring its own challenges next month. I think they're going to feel the heat here. Saint Etienne, I was really surprised they lost against Slav at home, got to be honest. But there's a lot of pressure on Saint Etienne at home, I think some of their better results and performances might come on the road as well. And Saint Etienne are quite a big club, really. They're not in the business for draws. I think they come here and try and get the victory. I wouldn't have a lot of money on this. But at +335, I think it's worth taking on Brest.
And Le Havre, Auxerre, what's your lean here?
Yeah, this is one. I might have got Le Havre wrong. I did quite fancy them to go down this year. Pre-season, one of my better anti-post bets. But they've actually looked all right. I thought they played quite well against PSG for 65 minutes. Beat Saint Etienne last week, like I said. And, the manager, Didier Digard, did all right at Nice, didn't he? And I think I might have got them wrong. I've got a feeling Le Havre might be okay this year. And how are they draw no bet here at minus 104? They're actually a slight underdog against Auxerre at home, newly promoted team. It just doesn't feel right to me. Auxerre have looked okay, but I think most of their points will be at home. It just looks the wrong price. I think Le Havre should be a minus a quarter favourite, really. So draw no bet. I think this could easily be a draw, so you need the full security. But the home side look overpriced.
James, you gave us a nice parlay with leans last week. I think one of them was fading Angers, and you're going down that route again.
Yeah, I'm opposing Angers again this weekend, Dan. So my lean here is on Nice to win away at Angers at minus 103. If you've seen Nice, you might wonder why I'm backing them. They've not been great. I must say they've only got 1 point from their opening 2 games, but it's really about how poor Angers have been and how poor I think they are in general. They've lost both of their games so far. They lost 1-0 against Lens. They lost 2-0 against Lille. In fact, they've not scored, I think tells a story there because they have been really poor in attack. If you look at the outright relegation market, they're way out on their own at the bottom of that market with Bet Rivers. They're minus 225 to be relegated. So they're the favourites to go down by a long, long way. And I think that's fair, actually. I think they look really weak. They haven't really strengthened in the window. They're not really able to strengthen in the window. So I don't think it will take a lot for Nice to actually win this game this weekend. And while they haven't played well, I think there is more to come from Nice. We know that they've got injuries at the moment, but they've got a really good manager in Franquès. So I think away from home here against an Angers side who are probably going to go forward and then not actually do very much when they get forward, I think it will give Nice chances to hit them on the break, which is, I think, how they're going to be most effective this season. So it's really a play on how poor Nice are. I think somehow, how poor Angers are. I think somehow Nice should get the job done here. And it's only a lean. It wouldn't have been one of my picks, but I think, the price, a bit like Steve was saying with the Le Havre pick, I think the price here on Nice, once the game starts, it might actually start to look quite good. So Nice minus 103 is my lean.
If you want to play all 3 in a parlay, it's around about 16-1, incidentally. And as we say, the boys put an awful lot of work into all of the leans, so well worth taking note of. The structure of the show is a 2-unit play, a 1-unit play, a hot dog, and 1 same-game parlay each week. So we've got 7 official selections, but obviously the boys throw out plenty of leans for you to get stuck into over the course of the European weekend. That's France rounded up. Let's move on to Spain. Valencia, Villarreal, we're going to talk about first of all, Steve. 3:30 Saturday. Valencia here are plus 185. Villarreal started the season really well, both in terms of wins and indeed goals, Steve. I mean, they're plus 145. I know you're not playing on the money line, but could you?
Yeah, definitely could. I think Villarreal win the game. Valencia, a bit worried about them to start the season, to be honest with you, Dan. The bet that I'm going to go with is over 2.5 goals at minus 127. Again, another really boring pick. Mystic Meg hardly saw this one coming. I can't believe the odds are this generous. And there's no way at kickoff this is minus 127. So if you're watching or listening, get on this quickly, I think, because Villarreal matches... Villarreal are nearly an automatic over team every week, no matter who they're playing against. They're just making every match into a shootout. Monday's fixture against Celta Vigo was the most wildest thing you've ever seen in a long time. 4-3 win. I mean, the XG numbers were off the charts. I think the XG numbers were even more than 7. Overall, it was ridiculous. Under Marcelino, they're just full of chances and full of goals. Playing to their strengths, which is good. Making every ball sort of a basketball type of match. And I've said before with Valencia, it depends on the opposition with them. They can get sucked into a shootout. In midweek, they got sucked into a cagey tactical battle against Bilbao. Athletic Club Bilbao, shall I say. And they were awful, to be honest. They offered nothing. They kind of tried to play the same way that Athletic Bilbao played, and it just didn't work for Valencia. But I think that'll make them fired up for this game at home. This match I think it's sort of a local geographical rivalry. I can't remember the name of the derby, but it is usually quite spicy. Just one of the last 15 head-to-heads have contained under 1.5 goals, which was the most recent meeting, funnily enough. But there was missed penalties and everything in that. 9 of the last 15 have gone over 2.5. I'm just struggling to see how there's not goals in the game, really. The goalkeepers are going to have to go well for it to go under. It just looks a massive price to me. Valencia will be better than midweek. People might look at Valencia's stats in that Bilbao game and think, oh, gosh, how on earth can you trust them to score for you? Well, they did score against Barcelona. They did score against Celta Vigo. And also, Villarreal could cover this goal line all on their own. So over 2.5 goals, minus 127. Pretty confident. This was this easily could have been my 2-unit pick, to be honest. Really confident in it. Not an original play. Really like the goals, though.
You mentioned Logan Costa, James, who's gone to Villarreal. He came off the bench to make his debut after playing for Toulouse in the first game. What will he give to Villarreal, do you think? You said he was going to be a miss for Toulouse this season.
Yeah, he's a really good young centre-back. He was a France youth international when he was 16, 17 years old, and he's developed really well in Ligue 1. I know Villarreal have conceded a lot of goals, haven't they? They conceded 8 goals, I think, in 3 games, and they do have some decent centre-backs. If you look at the players who started matches actually for Villarreal this season, Albiol, and I think it's Cambuala they brought in from Manchester United as well. Eric Bailey's there as well, ex-Man United. So they got options. I don't know if they see Costa as an immediate starter in their side, but I think if you look at that defensive record, he's got a fair chance, I would think, of breaking into the side, because he's a very solid, physical, athletic defender. He's good in the air. We saw that with Toulouse. So a good buy, I think, and one that I think the Villarreal fans will enjoy watching.
It'd be interesting to see if he starts at the weekend, but maybe not. Maybe one to introduce over the course of the campaign. Sticking with Spain, we've got Steve's official hot dog here. This is my favourite play of the week, I've got to tell you. It's Osasuna Celta Vigo, which is 11 a.m. Sunday Eastern Time. Celta Vigo are the outsiders at plus 235, which I can't quite get my head around, because they've been great to watch. I mean, bar that incredible penalty that they conceded against Villarreal, they might have got something from their last game. I mean, this could go over, Steve, as well, but talk us who you play.
Well, the bet that I'm going with on the hot dog, and do you know what I've done with the hot dog this week? I've kind of gone back to basics with it. If you hear some beeping in the background, by the way, it's not the police.
Is it a vehicle reversing?
It is a vehicle reversing, and it is the garbage truck. And I'm hoping that Osasuna...
Has it come for your Marseille memorabilia?
I'm hoping that Osasuna are going to be garbage here, because this is the bet I'm going with Celta Vigo on the money line.
Slightly concerned about a rattle of bottles there. You did have a party. It was a party, as they say, wasn't it?
Plus 235. on Celta Vigo. And I said, I've gone back to basics with a hot dog. When I first brought it in, the whole idea was each week to find a team on the money line that was a big price and worth backing. And the hot dogs evolved into all sorts of things, big goal lines, shots on target, anytime scorers. We even had a correct score hot dog, didn't we, in the Premier League show last week. But I've gone back to basics here, and I think it's a huge price. Number one, they're going to have a lot more days to recover for this game. At the time of recording, we don't even know what Osasuna's result is against Girona, by the way. But I don't care. I mean, even if they go there and beat Girona 4-0, this wouldn't change my reasoning. I just think it's going to be a massively short turnaround for Osasuna, 3 days. And that's a huge advantage for Celta. Celta played some really good soccer under Claudio Giraldez, who took over from Rafa Benitez last year. 1.77 points per game since he took over from 13 matches, 3-4-3 system. He's got players like Aspas scoring goals. Jonathan Bamba looks good. Viliot Svedberg, who was a signing from Hammarby in Sweden a few years ago as a 17-year-old. Fine talent. And they're just enjoying their football, full of goals. Good record here in against Osasuna as well. Won here 3-0 last season. Haven't even conceded a goal in any of the last 3 trips to Osasuna. I was thinking, actually, Dan, teams that we hardly ever talk about on this show. And Osasuna are one of them. I mean, they've hardly had a mention, have they? Last year, anyway. For those who are interested in them, from a city called Pamplona, more known for its famous bull run each year. The crazy scenes through the street. And I took the bull by the horns here. And I've gone straight on the nose with Celta Vigo on that one.
I don't know how you possibly shoehorned that reference
I
in.
know. Bull by the horns. Plus 235.
Just absolutely shocking.
Celta Vigo on the money line. I can see why you like this, because the more I thought about it, I love it. You know, this is a silly
I think
price.
I've seen Celta Vigo on the telly like a couple of games, and they look wild. They look like they're going to score. They look pretty good as well. I mean, Villarreal are decent. I think they beat Valencia, didn't they? Prior to that, I don't know a lot about Osasuna, but I just think Celta Vigo will be entertaining and be
just
good.
One more thing.
The
new manager for Osasuna this season as well, so they're getting used to his system. Vicente Moreno, he was sacked after 7 games last year at Almeria. He's already obtained more points here in 2 games than he did in his whole spell at Almeria. Didn't take much doing, did it? But I just think they're a bit up and down, Osasuna. They're not a team I bet on very often. But this just looks a really good spot to oppose them.
Give us your final thought on Spain, Steve, because you've got a lean in the Barcelona match here. It's an interesting one because, yes, they play 3-1-3, but they have conceded in every game, Barcelona, but you're taking a counter view of this one.
I think Barcelona win 2-0 here, plus money, plus 104. And I think the reason they're that price is because they have conceded a goal in all their first 3 games. But look who they've played against. Valencia away is not easy. Athletic Club Bilbao at home is not easy. And I think the Rayo Vallecano game, that was a match people did expect them to win 2-0 there, to be fair. But it was a very early goal, and then they dominated the fixture. We had Rui Barlow on the live show on Wednesday, and we were talking about Valladolid, and he just thinks they're really lacking firepower this season. He actually called the tie yesterday against the Leganes, which was a good call from Rory. But he just thinks they haven't got much to offer offensively, and I kind of agree with him. Newly promoted side, they're not going to have much of the ball here, are they? This is one-way traffic, probably less than 6 shots in the match. Barcelona win 2-0 at plus money.
Decent bet, that one, even though they have conceded in all 3 so far. Maybe the odds compilers, the bookies, just reacting to that a bit too much. Let's get to Italy, and we've got plays from James here. We've got the hot dog and the 1 unit play. We've got some leans as well, or 1 lean as well. It's Serie A. We're going to start, James, with your hot dog pick here, because it's the main game, or one of the main games on Saturday, 2:45 Eastern. Napoli versus Parma. Napoli, a short price favourites at minus 220. Parma up plus 575. I always thought you were going to look at goals for this particular game, given what we were talking about last week. But I didn't realise you were going to go hot dog with a player. And I've got to confess, I have never heard of him whatsoever. So you're going to have to talk us through this particular player.
Yeah, the hot dog pick is on this game, Napoli-Parma, Dan. And the player is Dennis Mann of Parma, who has come up with them from Serie B, Parma being promoted into Serie A for this season, and he's my hot dog pick. So he's a pick to score any time in the game at plus 380, And I think that's a good price because he's looked very dangerous in the opening couple of weeks of the season. So for people that don't know Dennis Mann, he scored 11 times in Parma's promotion campaign last season. So far this season, he's played on the right-hand side in attack, and very dangerous player coming in on his left foot. And that's what I've really liked about him, watching him in the opening weeks. He's scored in both of their games so far. He scored in the 1-1 draw against Fiorentina with a great finish, actually, off his left foot. And then he scored in the 2-1 win over Milan last weekend. He's not a shot monster. He's not a player who has a huge number of shots in every game. I think he's only had 5 shots on goal so far across those 2 matches, 2 on target, both of which were goals. So he's a clinical player rather than a player who has a massive volume of shots. But I just feel that the position he's taken up in the games so far for Parma, which is on the right-hand side and then coming in on his left foot, should make him dangerous here. And I think, Napoli at home, you'd expect them to get forward, wouldn't you? You'd expect them to attack. I just feel if Parma can find him maybe on the break in that position that he's taken up so far, then he should be dangerous. Maybe he's going to be a marked man now. He's got 2 goals in 2 games, so he's made a good start to the season. I don't know. But so far for Parma, he certainly looked the most dangerous player for them. And I think at plus 380, if his hot streak of the season is going to be now, then a bit like our pick with Ludovic Blas for Rennes last weekend, this would be the time to back him, I think. So he's the man to look out for here on the game. Plus 380 to score any time. I did have a look at goals in general, Dan, on this game. I think the line is quite high, isn't it? They're expecting an open match with goals.
Yeah.
I had a look at over 3.5, something like that, a big price, because we should see chances here and we should see them at both ends of the pitch. But in the end, I went for the hot dog pick on a player. It's Dennis Mann to score at plus 380.
Dennis Mann to score 380. Yeah, we talked about Napoli last week. That Antonio Conte in charge there when he's in the embryonic stages of his coaching career in league matches. The games that he presides over tends to throw up goals. It's not something you readily associate with Conte, but it does happen. Juventus Roma is the Sunday game, 2:45. This is the 1-unit play here. Just on the title situation, James, I mean, Juventus are getting shorter every week at the moment. I think people are starting to buy into what Thiago Motta is doing, and they look pretty good last week. I mean, your SGP cashed last week, but I was slightly concerned that we might go over the 3.5 goal element of your same game parlay. Thankfully, we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, you called that actually, Dan, because you did say, there's a concern with the Thiago Motta side if they're playing well that they might break through the 3-goal barrier and win 4-0 or maybe even 5-0 on their own. They looked like they might do that, didn't they? Because they were 3-0 uncomfortable and the game was wrapped up, and then thankfully for us, because we were on under 3.5, they didn't add any more goals. But yeah, I can see why they're attracting attention in the title market. They've started the season really well, 2 very comfortable 3-0 wins. Now they've not obviously faced the top opposition in the division. They've beaten Como and Verona so far, but I think it's the way they've done it, isn't it? It's a new manager, and they've cruised to 2 3-0 wins there without a full team yet. We know they're still buying in the window. Coop Mine has come in, hasn't he, this week? And maybe Jadon Sancho from Manchester United will be added, so they might be even stronger by the time the window closes. I can see why they're attracting attention. Obviously, Inter are the favourites. It makes sense. They won last weekend. We had a winning play on them, but it's possibly going to be a bit closer than people suspected, because Juventus are looking very good.
They take on Roma. Roma are plus 350 to win in Turin this weekend. Maybe a bit of reality check for Daniel De Rossi, certainly late last season and running into this season. I think it's a good time to bet Juve, James, and probably a good time to fade Roma. Give us your play.
Yeah, I'm backing Juventus here on the money line, down to get the win. I was actually surprised how big they are. They're minus 129, I think it is now. That's obviously an odds-on shot, but you'd expect Juventus to be an odds-on shot at home, and I thought they'd actually be. I thought they'd actually be shorter than this, given how they've played so far. We've mentioned those 2 3-0 wins they've had, really impressive. And if you think they can go on and win this game by a couple of goals, then you might actually want to look at Juventus on the Asian handicap line. I think minus 0.75 goal start on the Asian handicap. They're plus 102. And again, with that pick, you only need Juventus to win the game, don't you? And you're going to make a profit. And they've shown so far they can go on and win by a couple of goals. So that would be the other way to play it. But yeah, I was very happy to back them here just to get the 3 points, because they've played so well so far. I don't see any reason why that would change this weekend. They've been really comfortable, in control of both of their games so far. Bit more competition for places this weekend as well, with a couple of new players maybe coming in. And Roma have struggled. They've struggled. They drew 0-0 away to Cagliari on the opening weekend, and then they lost 2-1 at home to Empoli last weekend. So it has been a tough start. And you mentioned there maybe it is a reality check for De Rossi. I think one thing that may have gone a little bit under the radar with Roma, not so much with their fans and people who follow the team closely, but maybe casual fans of Serie A, is that they did change their sporting director this summer. They brought in Florent Ghisolfi, who's really highly rated in France. Worked as a sporting director at Lens, and then he just did one season at Nice last season. But he's new to Serie A, and a few people have looked at the Roma transfer dealings and, wondered what the plan is and whether they maybe could have done a little bit more. I don't know how much that is down to the change. I think Ghisolfi did such a terrific job in France as a sporting director. I can see why Roma targeted him. But it's just a sense of change, really, at the club that maybe has led to a few teething problems over the summer. I don't know. But so far, they've not impressed me. I thought they weren't great in either of those two matches. And I think the chance to oppose them, playing a Juventus side who are absolutely flying at the moment, it was too good to overlook, really. So it was almost my 2-unit pick this. I had a long, hard look at the two picks that I've gone for, but in the end I went for 1 unit. But as I say, I think Juventus, the way they've played so far, really impressive, and very happy to back them here at home to get the win at minus 129.
Sometimes, Steve, you've got to reset and readdress your own opinions of teams. And I think Juve, and we said it on match week 1, you've got to look at them and think they're going to be very, very different to what they were in recent seasons. I think they finished last season with 5 of the last 6 under 2.5. Thiago Motta's such a different coach, and this can apply to any team. New coach comes in. You talked about De Zerbi with Marseille, but I think Italy in particular, there's, traditionally, I'm in my 50s now, you just think of lots of unders, lots of 1-0s, and you've got to get your head out of that sometimes because there is value to be made. The bookmakers can have those same sort of opinions, and if you are a little bit counterintuitive, you can get some fair odds about certain aspects that you might not think are value.
You've got to keep up with the trends. What have I said about Simeone? Atletico Madrid is a good example of that as well. Things can change quickly. I want to congratulate James on the SGP winner last week and the hot dog as well. And he's started well in Italy, this James. He's got some good reads on the teams. One thing I just want to pick up on this game, and James mentioned it last week, is the corners. Juventus have had an incredibly low amount of corners in their games at both ends of the field. And the corner line is as high as 9.5 here. In fact, you can bring it down. Under 8.5 corners is plus 117 with Bet Rivers. And if you look, I don't know if it's the style. I think a lot of it is because they cut inside so much. Quite early in the final third of the field as well. It's not like they're getting anywhere near the byline. Roma are obviously a bit different with their corners. I think they're averaging 10.5 a game, but it's not. That's only just over that mark. So I think under corners might be worth looking at here. I really do, and that would be my lean of the week in Serie A, along with another lean actually that James has. I totally agree with the lean that he's going to come up with in the Cagliari game.
Yes, we will get to that right now. Yeah, it's interesting because Spinazzola's left for Napoli, and he was a player that just loved, for Roma, loved to get on that left-hand side and get to the byline. But I think it's just the way that Juve play. If you looked at Bologna last season, everything came from the back. It was fairly slow, patient build-up play, cohesive. But, you're not looking at Juve, I would have thought, bombing on the wings. It might change if they get a bit more dominant. But I think under corners is a stranger, isn't it? Because you always correlate corners with goals. But, over goals and under corners might be an interesting combo for Juventus backers this season. Let's get to that lean. James, I don't know if this is more about Lecce or Cagliari, the way you're framing this one. This is a game that's 12:30 Saturday Eastern.
Yeah, Lecce versus Cagliari, and the lean is on Cagliari on the Asian handicap with a plus 0.25 goal start at minus 107. Lecce are clear favourites to win the game here at home. They're plus 120 to do so. Cagliari are plus 250. I just feel the price on Lecce is too short based on what we've seen of mainly them so far, but also Cagliari. Lecce have lost their 2 matches without playing well in either of them so far. Lost 4-0 at home to Atalanta in their opening game, and then they lost 2-0 away at Inter last weekend. Now, obviously, they faced top-class opposition there, so this is by far the easiest of the games they'll have had so far this season. But there's been so little in attack, I think, from Lecce so far that even against a weaker side, I don't really fancy them at the moment. And I was surprised they were this short. We talked about them, whether they were value in the relegation market last week or a couple of weeks ago when they were plus 300, I think, to go down. They've come in now to plus 200 to go down. There are still 4 teams shorter than them in the outright relegation market, and Cagliari are one of them, but haven't seen anything so far from Lecce to suggest they should be as short as plus 120 to win this. Cagliari, they're unbeaten so far. They've got a couple of points on the board. They got a decent draw against Roma, then they drew against Como. So, that will give them a certain amount of confidence going into this. They've managed to avoid defeat in 2 matches despite being one of the favourites to go down. I just feel it's one of those, a bit like Steve mentioned earlier with the Le Havre game in France, where you just look at it and it's not that you particularly fancy Cagliari, but the price to me just looks a bit wrong here. I'd have it more of a 50-50 match than the market would suggest here. So that was why it was a lean, and it's on Cagliari to get something. And with the Asian handicap pick plus 0.25 goal start, as long as Cagliari gets something, a draw or a win, then you're going to make a profit.
I mean, your lean, Steve, was on Cagliari last week, wasn't it? It was an unders lean for the Monday Night Football, which cashed.
Yeah, and do you know what? I actually more I think about, I like the under as well here, but the line is pretty low. I think the goal line's at 2. I think Lecce, they look awful to me, and I think they might just go into simplify mode here, keep a clean sheet, get a point on the board. Cagliari, just to me, seem the sort of, they just feel like an under team, and that might include a few 1-1 draws. I think it's a tight game. This could go like 0-1, 0-0. It's not going to be a classic, is it? Let's be honest, at all. So, but I certainly think Lecce are struggling at the moment.
To Germany, we have got a same-game parlay to give you here. Now, the same-game parlay cashed, of course, last week, as we've referenced already. James, going what I would suggest is a more sort of orthodox, professional is probably over-egging it, but orthodox play for the same-game parlay. Now, if you're a fan of the Premier League show, and I'm sure many of you are, the way that Nigel and Jack have started with the same-game parlay, it's a more sort of aspirational same-game parlay. And I know that Nigel wants us to try and get the big prices. I'm split, because I think if you're a pro, if you speak to Will White, he'd play it as James played it last week, and it cashed, and we can't argue when it cashes. But Steve, I think you've been speaking to Nigel too much here. Do you know what I mean? I can see Nigel's hand on this same game parlay. I can see it hovering over. No. Add that one. Add that. Leverkusen Leipzig, 12:30 Eastern. You have got an interesting SGP for followers.
I told you earlier in the show I've got a strategy for at the minute, and for the 2.
This is not boring. You told us it was boring. You said it's going to be boring. It's going to be 2. It's going to be minus money. Going to be boring. Sorry, this isn't. 2 unit and 1 unit plays are going to be boring. When I'm on the SGP duty, when hot dog as well, that's when I can sort of have a go a bit more. And I've took influence here from Nigel, Jack, James as well. James on the anytime scorers has been really good. So I have gone with a very simple play here. It's his Leverkusen against Leipzig. By the way, I'm going to make a big statement here. I think Leverkusen get beat. I think Leipzig come here and win and end this unbeaten record. Plus 280 on Leipzig. They get the job done. But Bold.
The SGP is on 2 players to score at any time at plus 550. Remember, the SGP is only a half a unit, and I'm going with Lois Openda to score any time and Victor Boniface to score any time. So pretty simple. The 2 top strikers on each team to find the back of a net. Openda actually scored in both fixtures against Leverkusen last season. I wonder how many players could say that in the previous campaign. Probably not that many. He's a huge price on his own, plus 180 any time. He just looked sharp in pre-season. I think he's in the shop window a bit, Openda. The links to Arsenal, maybe some other big teams. I don't think it'll be this window, possibly January or whatever. And, it's going to be a tricky one. But, actually, hold on. John, you're going to have to edit this. I've got a parcel that has to be answered.
I think we just keep it in. Don't worry about that. Give us your thoughts on Lois Openda, James. Well, Steve goes. Because he was at Lens, scored a lot of goals at Lens, didn't he?
That is good timing, because he is one of my favourite strikers in the Bundesliga. I mentioned him, was it last week, when I said if you're looking to oppose Harry Kane in the Bundesliga top scorer market, Lois Openda would be my pick at plus 700 in that market. I know we had an issue about who do you actually back if you're going to back someone.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of him. So for him to come up in Steve's SGP here, I've got absolutely no issues with that at all. I'm a huge fan.
24 goals last season for Leipzig. What was the package, Steve?
Something for the wife, and I thought it was going to require a signature. I thought it was going to require a signature.
Can we get a live opening on the show? You know, you get these YouTubers that like have those unboxings, don't you? And they go through, I don't know, Apple TV or something.
Oh, it's something a lot more than that. It's something a lot more than that in an actual envelope.
Let us know, everybody, on the comments. Let us know what you think was in the box for Steve. Steve, continue. We're keeping it in the show. Continue.
Right, where I was.
We had a Pender chat with James, so no one's missed any betting chat. Don't worry, we didn't just stop. Go on.
Yeah, SGP plus 550, Openda and Boniface, and I think Openda's in the shop window. I think Boniface might be eventually as well. He, 24 goals last year for Openda, 14 for Boniface, but he missed a large chunk of the season with injury, so that they may well have got into the mid-20s as well. Scored in the Super Cup, of course, in pre-season. And I think this is going to be a crazy game, full of goals, by the way. I actually nearly had a plus 900 same SGP here. I added
Which was?
I was just going to add in over 3.5 goals and over 6.5 corners. I mean, the goals, I think it's a high-scoring game, and corners should just naturally come in every fixture, really, like this, where there's a lot of shots and chances. And that pays plus 900. But I thought, let's just keep it simple here. If it's a 1-1 draw and both scored, I'd be furious with myself. So, I think this is going to be an intriguing game. Shout out to you, by the way, Dan. You've nailed Leverkusen both the first 2 weeks. If scoring late goals.
What did I say last week? I can't remember.
just back them if they're not winning going into injury time.
Yeah. Do you know what? I backed. I backed Carl Zeiss Jena, is it, on the handicap last night in the German Cup because they put out a very old team, Leverkusen. So, yeah, they're my favourite team at the minute. Anyway, go on.
But, I'd say I think there could be a shock on the cards. I think Leverkusen's time, they're due a defeat. We've said this for a while, haven't we? But Leipzig are the sort of team who may well deliver it. They've got the quality in all areas of the field. And if they play well, they're capable of getting the win. And they've got in Openda up front, I think he's a top-quality striker. That on its own, like I say, plus 180 for Openda anytime is a massive price here. Boniface including the SGP plus 550 for half a unit. I really quite like this one.
Last thought before we wrap things up, we've got a lean in the Bundesliga from Steve. Been an interesting one this because I looked at the expected goals for Eintracht Frankfurt's defeat away at Dortmund, and according to some expected goals models, they got more than Dortmund. But you are siding against. I mean, it's just a lean. You're siding against them with Hoffenheim.
Yeah, this was on my hot dog shortlist. Hoffenheim on the money line. Popular play last year. Plus 285 here at Frankfurt. Main reason is that Hoffenheim just have a good away record under the current regime. 6th best away record last year in Bundesliga. 7 wins they had. Only Bayern, Leverkusen and Leipzig scored more away goals than Hoffenheim. And they're all or nothing. They away from home, they'll rack up some interesting wins, which surprises you. So they're always on my shortlist away from home on the money line. I wouldn't back them handicaps because they just lose too many games as well. Frankfurt, they're not a team I tend to bet on very often. Their games tricky. It's only a lean, but I just think Hoffenheim. I can guarantee in the first 5 away games they'll surprise you somewhere with a big away win, and this might be it.
That's the lean in the Bundesliga. That wraps things up. Steve, James, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We keep everyone updated, of course, via Twitter. And make sure you give us your comments and your best plays in the YouTube section below. Make sure you subscribe as well. We've got a reminder of the boys' P&L on screen for you. So we'll be highlighting that over the course of the season. We're only a couple of match weeks in, though. And that is a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European show. We're going to be back in a fortnight's time, of course. We've got international break, but don't forget, we've got our live shows Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Always plenty of betting chat, a lot of football covered. No doubt we'll be looking at those Nations League games as well over the course of next week. Got the US Open with Nigel in New York as well. Make sure you follow us across all the usual social media channels from all of us. For now, though, it is goodbye.